Ladies and gents, welcome to the Cherry Red Record Stadium, also known as the new Plough Lane. So if I was to mention Wimbledon to somebody on the street, they'd probably think of this place.
You cannot be serious!
But if I was to mention Wimbledon to you lot, my fellow football-obsessed ground hoppers, you'd probably think of this. Before we do a stadium tour of this place, the beautiful new Plough Lane, let's take a quick trip down memory lane and explore the crazy history of the Dons. Roy, never
And the rock means
mention Milton Keynes around here. Yes, I'm on Plough Lane. Obviously, this road being Plough Lane. And behind me is the site of the old Plough Lane football ground. Now, originally, it was sold off to make way for a Safeway. Who remembers Safeway, a popular British supermarket? But planning permission was not granted. It was left somewhat abandoned for a number of years until a developer came along, bought up the land, and obviously it now has flats and various homes. But that's irrelevant in today's story because it is the site in which the original Wimbledon FC played their football from 1912 to 1991. So a long bloody time. To be honest, they only really left here due to the club's rapid rise through the leagues. Well, that and the fact that obviously off the back of the Hillsborough disaster in '89, there was an inquiry, the Taylor Report, which basically meant that all top teams in the country had to comply with new stadium rules, the main one being the fact that all stadiums were to be all-seater, which, considering the state of this place at the time, would have basically been impossible. It would have cost the club a hell of a lot of money. The club was struggling financially anyway, but it also would have massively reduced the capacity, which again would have had a massive knock-on effect to the club's revenue. As you can see, Bassett House. We'll get inside the development in a moment because they have named blocks of flats after Wimbledon legends. A similar thing has happened at the former site of the Dow. We've been there, we've made a video, check that out after this video, where they named various courts after former players such as Latiz. They've got Latizier Court. But if you are to wander Womble down to Wimbledon, you'll find various memorials, landmarks, which we love. Very, very often when we do these tours of old grounds and stuff, we often are left somewhat unsatisfied, a little bit sad as to the lack of nod to the club's history. As you know a lot of the story, but it's always good to remind you, rather than renovate this place, they decided to ground share with Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. So, ladies and gents, I've made my way inside the development, what was the old Plough Lane, and I stood in a spot where the pitch used to be. I'm on some grass. Is this the same grass legendary Wimbledon players played their football on, that famous FA Cup winning squad? Wimbledon fans, let us know in the comments below, am I in the right place? Obviously, the move to Selhurst Park, it was only supposed to be a temporary thing, maybe a few years at most. But, as you know, they ended up staying there for a whopping 12 years. Now, in 1988, the local council approved plans for a 20,000-seater stadium in the London borough of Merton. But as you know again, obviously, that didn't happen. Those plans amounted to nothing. What did I tell you guys? Lots of nods to former legends. You've got Laurie House, obviously after Laurie Sanchez. I love this. I loved it at Southampton, and although it is a sad story, I'm loving the fact that there's so many nods to Wimbledon's history. I mean, I could go back up here, there's more grass. Maybe that's where the centre circle was. It looks like it's a lot more central. But you get the idea. Controversially, they even explored an option to move the club to Dublin, the Dublin Dons. It was very close to happening. But again, as you know, they ended up in the early 2000s moving the club to Milton Keynes. In today's video, ladies and gents, I'm not going to dwell too much on the negativity. I'm not going to focus too much on the move to MK. Instead, I'm going to celebrate some of the good that actually came from an incredibly bad situation. So I know it's a little bit of a controversial thing to say. The death of a football club is a good thing for the football club. Obviously, we need to put that into context. Wimbledon fans were unhappy with the ownership of the club. For many years, there was talk of a merger with Crystal Palace, not just a ground share, but actually merging the club with Palace. There were so many rumours over the years. We've just mentioned the move to Dublin and obviously the move to MK, which did happen. But this was something that was going on for a number of years. Wimbledon fans started to slowly boycott the club. You see, attendances dropped when they moved to Selhurst Park. Fans stopped buying the official programme. Fans stopped buying official merchandise from the club shop. So the club was basically the victim of its own success. The club was slowly dying whilst in the Premier League, which is really ironic. And obviously the relegation was basically the nail in the coffin prior to the ultimate nail in the coffin of moving to MK. So when the Phoenix Club was born in 2002, the Phoenix definitely did rise from the ashes. Fans gathered and looked at options. They held trials at Wimbledon Common. Players unattached to a club would attend, and AFC Wimbledon was formed in 2002. The badge was sorted, but also they settled upon a new home. Now obviously it wasn't at Plough Lane. It would take a long time for Wimbledon to get there, but they did settle here, which is currently the home of Chelsea women. Making a Wimbledon video. AFC Wimbledon enjoyed many a successful time here at Kingsmeadow. Let's take a quick look before we head over to their current home. Let's take a look around the current home of Chelsea women. So despite enjoying a lot of success whilst playing here at this ground, Wimbledon fans had one aim, and that was to return home to Plough Lane. I've heard or I've seen clips whereby fans prior to the move to the current stadium were asked, would you prefer a move back home to Plough Lane, or would you prefer to win the Premier League? It's a question most fans would answer differently. They'd win the bloody Premier League, wouldn't they? But no, AFC Wimbledon fans just wanted to be home. Now I've made a similar video to this on Brighton. Obviously my history with Brighton is a unique one, because I was there in '97 when Brighton managed to stay in the Football League when they played my hometown club of Hereford. Now Brighton also faced a tricky time over the years. They also found themselves homeless. But fortunately, Brighton managed to avoid liquidation, and Brighton managed to thrive off the back of some of those hard times. The story is very different with Wimbledon. As I mentioned a minute ago, you're never going to probably see the story ever again in English football. But the fact that they persisted, the fact that the fans showed exactly what football is all about. It's about the passion, the emotion of following your club. Because of those years played here at Kingsmeadow, they're now at their current home. They've made their dreams a reality, and they have returned to Plough Lane. I think it's time to move on, and let's check out the current home of AFC Wimbledon. Ladies and gents, let's go. Okay, so it's not an actual shirt, but I have got, obviously, a canvas print. If you are new around here, I've got a bit of a man cave, Football Paradise HQ. We do our live streams from there. It's always featured on the channel. So I thought a lovely bit of artwork, obviously commemorating a throwback to when Wimbledon had their biggest achievement, winning the FA Cup, beating Liverpool in '88. They did the retro shirts, and I'll tell you why I didn't buy them. I know that's the look of the shirt at the time, but the badge and the sponsor and stuff were quite faded on the shirts, and I don't know, I just didn't quite like the look of them. I was hoping to get one of those mid-90s kind of dark blue. Elon X, I think, was a sponsor, but they're out of stock at the moment. Can I just say as well that AFC Wimbledon had some beautiful kits for the previous season, but the new kit isn't quite out yet. We might go back in there after the tour. But ladies and gents, great first impressions. Little bit of a museum kind of entranceway. You've obviously got the models of their previous grounds, and I've already been in there, but I've not shown you yet. There is the FA Cup as you head on into reception where you start the tour, so I'm looking forward to checking those out. Let's go and check them out now, shall we? Let's go! So the tour begins from reception, where there's lots of cabinets full of nostalgia, memorabilia and all kinds of stuff from the club's history. As you can see, it is very FA Cup 1988 heavy, which is understandable. I'd say it's their biggest achievement in terms of trophy, most definitely. Well, there it is, there's the FA Cup. But obviously the move to Plough Lane was probably more significant for the club in its AFC formation. I mean, just think of those legendary players who lifted that trophy. You've got the obvious ones from John Fashanu, Dennis Wise, Jones, Besant and so on, but don't forget the manager, Bobby Gould, and his assistant, Don Howe. Now here we go, here's the actual museum. I thought the lobby area was the museum, but they've actually got their own dedicated room in the shop. As you can see, various stages, various incarnations in the club's history. I love the Wombles mascot. Obviously they are the Wombles. Again, Don's fans, what do you think? What did you think in the 90s when they went for a slightly darker shade of blue with the kit? You can see the lighter blue with the yellow in the FA Cup winning shirts. In the 90s they did go a lot darker. I do like the darker one, whether that's because I grew up in the 90s. This is interesting, this trophy here was actually in someone's loft when they died. Somebody got in touch with the club and said, do you want this trophy? And that trophy is actually the very first trophy they won, I believe, in 1989. This is obviously marking the Premier League foundation in 1992, which obviously Wimbledon FC were founding members, with players such as Gale back there. And as you can see, obviously when AFC reset up, you might have seen that they wore white shorts and had a lot more white in their kit. I believe that's a nod to Wimbledon FC's past, when obviously the club played and they were blue and white more so than blue and yellow. But obviously that iconic yellow trim on the blue kit is what we all know. Now, Wikipedia has Wimbledon playing on Wimbledon Common from 1989 when they were founded to 1912 when they moved to Plough Lane. But over there, just to the side, behind those fences behind there, apparently they played on that site from 1911 to 1912 when they officially moved to Plough Lane. Now, into the entranceway, it's really plush. It does... Oh, this is a toilet, by the way, and he showed us just to show how much wall art there is, how much like branding there is throughout the whole stadium. It even extends to the bloody toilet. But obviously it's full of it here in the home dressing room. Now just look at that home dressing room. It's as good as some of the Premier League stadiums we've toured over the past year. I love just an old school tactics board, and I think managers do too by the looks of it. Now this is interesting, we've not seen this before. If you pull away those boards, you've got legendary players. You can see Vinnie Jones 4 there. Apparently there's lots of different legends behind each of those boards. Some of them are blank, and it's apparently to inspire the young players in the team to maybe get themselves on one of those boards one day. Showers are pretty good, again not much different than you'd find in a Premier League ground. A couple of baths, gone are the days when you had those big bubble baths and all the players would jump in. A random exercise bike supposed to warm up. Into the visitors changing room. Now this is pretty much the same, minus all that blue, that branding and stuff. Yeah, a little bit, well, exactly the same. If you look at the showers, that is exactly the same, isn't it? Pretty much the same as well, but plainer. Again, so much wall art, some beautiful pictures. They've done a fantastic job taking us fans, I'm not actually a Wimbledon fan, but taking fans down memory lane. An Aaron Ramsdale shirt. Who'd forgotten, should I say, that Ramsdale played for the club. Loads of legendary or players who've gone on to be legends of other clubs made their start. Fellow goalkeeper, the famous save in the FA Cup final by Besant. Again, Nigel Winterburn, another one, famous player for Arsenal, made his name at Wimbledon. I think he was Don's Player of the Year 3 years in a row. Down the tunnel we go. Oosh. Now obviously it's a smaller ground, the capacity is a lot smaller than you'd find, of course, in the Premier League, the Championship and stuff. But make note that side opposite us and the two ends are kind of semi-permanent stands. Originally they were all going to be like the one you can see right here, a lot bigger temporary stands. What's that, the Kappa stand? Sorry if I've pronounced that poorly, but they were all going to be like that. But obviously funds dried up, so they've gone for the option they've gone for. And we'll see in a moment that there's so much space around the ground because of that change of plan. All the different badges over the years, again, a nod to the, I don't even want to say former club, because I know Don's fans would get annoyed, the continuation of the previous incarnation of the club. Here we are outside. You can see massive space around the outside of the ground. Normally we do a 360 around the outside. Momentarily though, that is a nod to some of the motocross history of the club, of the ground. This was originally Wimbledon Stadium, known to most people as Wimbledon Greyhound Stadium, but there was motocross here as well. So lots of sporting activities going on at what is now the Cherry Red Records Stadium. Down the halls, more artwork. Oosh, Lady Di. Again, that 88 game is iconic, not just for Wimbledon fans. You can see Fashnu, Winterburn, all going on. The old Plough Lane, that famous penalty to bring the AFC up. The Crazy Gang. Loads of good times there. London Broncos also do play at this ground, by the way, guys. And as we make our way into the director's box, you're going to get a lot more sort of trivia, again, lists of opponents. This is the family tree, which again, if you look, AFC Wimbledon renamed in 2002-2003. You won't get any mention of MK Dons around the new Plough Lane ground, which is very much understandable. The foundation date, again, 1889, Old Centrals FC. Wimbledon's journey throughout the years is all documented on the walls. This one is very interesting though, we're going to get onto in a moment. Turning semi-pro in 1964. So although they were founded in 89, their rapid rise through the leagues is quite a recent story. I mean, the 80s were a massive success story for Wimbledon. They went from the 4th tier to the 1st tier from 1983 to 1986. They're the only club to win the normal, well-known FA Cup and also the FA Amateur Cup. They also played in the Intertoto Cup. Who remembers the Intertoto Cup? They played in that in 1995. Fantastic view here. I love that. I love the colour scheme. So I'm currently sat in the posh seats for such a small ground. It really is impressive. I know it's only a few years old, but everywhere I go, I mean, my mouth's hurting because I've just been smiling the whole time. Absolutely love it here. So now we're into a bit of a function room, again used for various things. Apparently it's very popular for Indian weddings. You can see they love a party at an Indian wedding, loads of space. Over in the distance you've got the press conference bit, as you can see. But you finish back up in the museum, there's so much to see, again, from different parts of the club's history. It really is interesting, guys. I highly recommend you check out the Wimbledon Stadium tour. Right then, guys, you know it's been a good tour because I've been back and bought something else from the club shop. I'll reveal what I've bought at the end of the video. I thought I would do my little kind of review of the stadium tour by Dennis Wise. We've recently done a video on Como, the former Serie B team, the small club with that beautiful stadium right on Lake Como. Randomly, the reason I'm mentioning that is Dennis Wise is currently the, what is he, like the, He's got some role at Como, who are now a Serie A club, by the way. We've not actually explored the outside too much. You've seen on the stadium tour that everywhere is kind of gated. We've had to have access. There's so much room around the ground, again, because the ground was supposed to be a little bit bigger in terms of capacity, that big kind of main stand with the director's box and so on. Originally, they were going to be 4 stands of that size. So those stands that aren't as big, semi-permanent stands, they can last for like 50 years, but there's a lot of scope for development. So I'm absolutely shocked. I knew it was going to be nice because it's new and modern, but I didn't quite realise how nice. So guys, I'm on what Google Maps tells me is Greyhound Parade. I might be wrong, correct me if I am wrong. Obviously a nod to the Greyhound history of this place. But those fences as well, this is the other side of those fences. Very, very tall fencing along the outside. But this is really nice. Obviously, these are the apartments behind me here, which have a fantastic view. Don't need to be paying for season tickets. But those people up there, I did ask the tour guide, how much do you think those apartments up there go for? And he said they probably start from around 800,000, with the penthouse suite being about 3 million. But apparently, a lot of those that live up there weren't originally Wimbledon fans, but a few of them have become Wimbledon fans merely for the fact that on the weekend they get to watch football, and some of them even hang like Wimbledon banners on their balcony and stuff. So it's really good to hear. Again, I don't want to keep beating that same drum, but the fact that they've been reborn, they've gathered new support, not just locally, not just nationally, but worldwide. Those sponsorships with like Football Manager and stuff definitely helped out. I know it definitely piqued my interest. I chose them as a team on Football Manager. The possibilities are endless. They're a London club. Obviously London clubs, you know, people deny it, but they do attract a lot of players merely for the fact that they're in London, the capital. It's a bloody nice area. Obviously the tennis tournament happens here. There's a lot of appeal to the area. Just as an idea, the turnstiles behind the entrance and exits on match days over here. I'm guessing that thing over there with a shutter, I'm guessing that might be a programme stand stall possibly. Ladies and gents, let's get to the car and I'll show you what I've bought from the club shop. Let's go. Right then guys, rather than go to the car, I thought I would catch up with you back here at Football Paradise HQ. As you can see, I've got my wall art up, but if you look down here, I've bought one of those light up emblem things. It's hard to see on camera. It's basically that thing there, so in the dark it is going to look fantastic. Ladies and gents, I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the home, the newish home, a few years old now, of AFC Wimbledon. If you did, stick that thumb, and I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in some of these videos on screen right now. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you there.